Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
And I can see your screen now, Satya, so.
Okay. Let me just take it off. Okay, so in the last session, I had given an introduction on the offline implementation on Android. At that point, we had decided the persistence mechanism of how to store data offline on Android for our app, and what's the sync mechanism between the server and the Android app. Let me just open the wiki link so I can share that with you. Let's see. I've started documenting some of the design details on wiki. So whatever I'm saying right now, a part of it is available on the GitHub wiki pages as well. So just taking it from there, we had so I was part of a POC where we were trying out the different options for offline storage and data sync, and these were some of the requirements that we were targeting. So we should have the ability, the app should have the ability to download data from server and store it offline for usage in lower connectivity areas. App should give an ability to add, update, or modify the offline data, so the user can proceed with making changes while he doesn't have network connectivity. And then once the connectivity is restored, he would basically push the changes that he made while he was offline back to the server. This is what we call sync, or pushing data back to the server. And while we are offline, the data has to be secure at rest. At rest, as in when it's persisted, the data has to be secure. So if the phone is lost or the device is lost, someone cannot just pull out the data and look at the details there. So these were some of the goals of the proof of concept that we were working on, and we started with it. And basically, the solution was in three parts. One, we had to choose a mechanism for offline storage. We had a couple of choices. We could have stored JSON directly on the file system, as so serialize those into files and write it on the file system. But we went with a more conventional approach of using a relational database. Android provides SQLite out of the box, so you could it's a relational database, not as rich as some of the server counterparts like MySQL or the Oracles and the MySQL servers, but it is a fairly compact and lightweight relational database. So we went with SQLite database for persisting our data offline, and there are two options to accessing SQLite. We could have written our own queries or gone with a helper or a ORM tool, which helps you basically create and manipulate data using objects. So we chose Sugar ORM partially because I'm one of the authors there. And Sugar ORM, it gives you an abstraction layer over the Android's database framework. It helps you create the database for you, and it has some helper methods for easy querying and save and update and other manipulation of the data. So our offline storage mechanism, we chose to have Sugar ORM backed by SQLite database. Next was once we figure out the storage mechanism, next choice was to devise a strategy to pull data and push data back to the server and handle different error scenarios that occur. So we already had a retrofit based REST client on the application side. We reuse that for our offline sync as well. So when the user decides that I need to, so the POC went like this. So it was basically collection sheet operation. So the user downloads the collection sheet information for a day for a particular branch, and he goes into the lower connectivity areas. With the downloaded information, he can add new loans and disburse some amount there and manipulate all the data. And when he comes back after the day or whenever he gets the connectivity, he can always sync the data back to the server. Now, one of the challenges we had was there was a duplicate insertion of data. So the device would send the same data twice to the server. So we got rid of that by having a sync flag on the data level, and every time we successfully sync the data, we mark that as synced, and so that we do not have the same data going back to the server multiple times. So that was the major issue we faced, and we got around that with the flag on the database side. After the sync, one of the requirements was when the data is at rest on the Android app, how do we secure it? We went with a tool called SQL Cipher, which is a SQLite database extension which encrypts the entire database. So if the device gets lost and someone tries to root the device and extract the database, they would still not be able to open the database file because it was encrypted with a key which is only known to the application. So these were the primary choices that we made during our offline implementation. I would show you the app, which okay, if you can see the screen here. Can someone confirm if they can see the mobile screen here?
Yes, Satya. Yes, Satya, we can see.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so in this case, what I've done is on behalf of the user, I've downloaded information for one of the branches for a particular day. So this shows you all the collection sheet that is available for a particular day for a particular user and a branch. So let's go to a center. I'm going to Karnataka 1, and you would see the different groups that are there. And if I go to a particular group, you would see different clients and their respective loans as an editable text here. And the officer could change the amount and then save it. Now this is saved offline, and it is not yet synced with the server. And whenever the user or the officer is in connectivity area, he basically taps on sync, and that data goes back to the server, and this change would be reflected on the server. And you if you see the same collection sheet information again, now it shows a blue mark saying that this center data has been synced with the backend. And when you go back into it, you won't be able to sync it again because this data has already been synced. Now once you're done, once a user is done with this operation, he can basically clear data. So clear data will clear all the offline data, and the user is ready for importing or downloading next set of data for offline usage. So this has been the primary use case that we targeted for our offline implementation. So once now that we have established the entire framework for offline, we would target more use cases like Nayan was mentioning, saving the data forms, data tables offline, and creating different forms out of that. So those use cases would come in the next cycle of development, which Ishan would also be working on. On the code side, it is made fairly easy. The persistent side, most importantly. So on persistence, earlier, if you had to work on SQLite, you had to write a lot of queries, and you had to write, and the maintenance of queries become very difficult because these are defined as strings in your code, and strings do not have a great maintaining option. So if something is incorrect in the query, it's very difficult to find out what's going wrong or something like that. Also, database creating and maintenance is a slight pain in Android. So Sugar ORM helps with that, and so for example, let's say we have a table called account. Now what we do is create a class called account which extends Sugar Record, and Sugar Record takes care of creating a table account with the 3 parameters as columns. So you would this would result in a table called account with 3 columns: account ID, account status ID, and loan ID. So with this approach, we created about 12 to 13 tables that would store all the collection sheet information. So if you could see the classes here that I expanded in the DB package, this pretty much represents the schema that is dynamically generated from these classes. So for those interested in inner workings of Sugar Record, Sugar works primarily on reflection. So when the app is launched at the first time, it reads through all the classes that extend Sugar Record, and basically reflects into all the properties, gets all the properties, and creates tables at runtime when the application launches the first time. And then after that you could just query information with some helper methods like find by query, find all, and it's got quite a few easy options as far as find, save, and other things go.
Satya, I think Avik has a question for you. Avik, do you have any question? Avik, you are able to hear me? Avik, Avik, I just saw your raising your hand. I thought you have a question. I'm like, no. If you have a question, please go ahead. Sorry, Satya. I think you can go ahead. I'm not sure. Maybe Avik may be having a problem with his mic or something.
Okay, he can probably type in the. There's a way to add comments. If he has a problem with the mic, he could share it that way. My mic isn't working. You can type it out, Avik, and I'll try to answer that if that works for you. Okay, so we'll not wait for Avik's question, but Avik can type it out. Okay, sure. So he'll mail it later to me. Okay, so
Satya, I have a question here.
Sure.
If you go back to that DB object in account, if I add any other fields,
Yeah.
Will Sugar take care of updating the database automatically?
Yeah, so in Android what happens is you release an app, it creates a database. When you release another version of the app, so you have to do a version update, and along with the version update you have to do a database upgrade as well. So you would have to provide the upgrade script for that additional column in that table. During development, Sugar will add the additional column for you, but in production it doesn't work as easy as just adding a column. So you have to provide upgrade scripts for that additional column.
Okay. That update script, is it we have to manually, means when I say manually, in Mifos, Gradle will take care of updating. We are using Flyway to update the database scripts. So is there any similar concept here to update the database?
Yes, we've used for Sugar we've used something similar to if you know Ruby on Rails, we have this migration scripts, and here's some information that I was just opening. So you could have something like you could provide a SQL file and enter all the SQL queries for the upgrade. It could be alter table, and this example, if you can see, this example shows adding a column. So you have to do alter table and add a column with that type. And for every upgrade version, you could add a separate upgrade script. So if a user is going from 1 to 4, all the script would be executed in sequence.
Okay.
Does this answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, sure. So that's the purpose of creating the objects. The purpose of creating objects here is to ease the interaction with the backend database.
Satya?
Yeah.
I have a question. The accounts table or the accounts class,
Okay.
If it has a relationship with another class like a foreign key,
Yeah.
would it be possible to get, for example, if it has many relations, then would it be possible to get kind of an array for that other class, or
Yeah.
or if it belongs to a relationship, then would it have an object of that class or something like that?
Yeah. So there are basically 3 types of relationships that is supported by most ORMs. One is the one-to-one relationship. So you have a reference to another class. Second is one-to-many, where one record maps to multiple records, and the last one is many to many. So you have many to many relationship between two tables. So if you can see some example here, if you see a client, it maps to a group here. So you have to just add this relationship at the class level, and Sugar takes care of maintaining it at the database level. So client is part of a group. So client has a group object here. It's a similar relationship to object model. Client has a group, and this links on the database with a group ID being a foreign key in the client table.
Okay.
On the question of whether we get arrays, if you see here, a group has a list of clients, but this is not automatically filled by Sugar. This can be easily achieved though with a query where you query on the client table asking for all the clients which belong to a particular group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like this. The query would look something like this. If you can see the line here. So you select from group where condition. So it's a very if you've worked with active record or GORM, then it's a very similar syntax. Where it's, yeah, it's very easy to query the tables and all that.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions, sir? Okay. So after this was the major part. I could delve a little into the SQL Cipher one as well. Let me just. Okay. So SQL Cipher is has very little dependency on code change. There was hardly any code change. Sugar ORM gives you a flavor where it implements SQLite with SQL Cipher internally. So at the application level, the code doesn't change between using a regular Sugar ORM versus using a encrypted version of Sugar ORM. All you need to do is drop the SQL Cipher libraries. If you could see the folders here, you have three SO files and SQL Cipher, and you have a Cipher version of Sugar ORM called Sugar Cipher. It's a tongue twister there. So you have these libraries that need to be added, and this basically gets you started on encrypted database. Sugar does a lot of the heavy lifting for integrating with SQL Cipher and doing the encryption on your behalf. So that was about SQL Cipher. If you have any questions, you can let me know. SQL Cipher is an open source tool which is used by a lot of primary a lot of clients. Let me just open it if I can. Okay. So this was recently okay. This was recently ported for Android and has been pretty successful in enterprise space. Had a list of clients here. Yeah. So you can see SQL Cipher is fairly popular in the industry with people like Salesforce and Xerox and Motorola and Samsung using it for their own for the encryption needs. So it's become an industry standard for encrypting the SQLite files on Android, iOS, and other mobile applications. So we continued with that, and it takes it's a fairly good recommendation. And then after that, you could see you saw some of the screens here. So these screens are basically presented in classes called center list fragment and client fragment. These classes basically represent those screens, and if you're interested, you could look at these classes, and these are fairly simple screens right now because this was a POC, but once we are into active development, these would be fairly, I guess we would complicate these screens a little more once it's part of the application. That pretty much completes my agenda for today. If you I've not gone into too much detail of the fragment, but if you're interested, I could share you some more information on the fragments. So I've covered the persistence and I've covered the security part. If you have any questions, I'm open for it.
Satya, I just want to know like how you download the data.
Okay, so let me show that to you if I can. Okay, so we have something called retrofit. Are you comfortable with the code that we have here, the Android code?
Not fully, but I can understand. Yeah.
Okay. So let me show you one of the APIs. For example, we have different services which are defined in the retrofit API class, and one of the service could be, let's say a client service, and we have a backend API called clients, backend REST API called /clients. So we've created a method here called list all clients, which would give us a page of client information. A page is basically a page would have a list of page items, and each page item would have one client object. And once we call this method, what retrofit would do is call the backend API with the required parameters and get you this page object back. And once you have the data from the server, you would go about saving this information into the database. So client is already an object, and you call save on that. It's as simple as that, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I can show you some. Let's see some save collection sheet. Okay, so this gives you the save collection sheet, and so if you can see how this is how we call the backend. So we call API dot center service, which is the service we want to call, and the method which is mapped to a backend endpoint, REST endpoint. So this would result in giving you a collection sheet. You get the collection sheet, and then you can basically do anything with those objects that you want.
Okay.
Right. And when we send it back to complete the cycle, we have a method called save collection sheet. So that basically fetches all the data from a local database and calls the backend API with that data as a post, and it basically updates all the data back into the server, pushes all the data back into the server.
Okay. So fragment will take care of means all the code which are related to making call to APIs, retrieving and saving. So
Okay.
that code goes into fragments, is it?
Fragment is the screen is basically represented by a fragment. Every screen that you see there is basically one fragment here.
Yeah.
So we do this fetch and save at one of the fragments, so that becomes like the initiator of this whole cycle, right? So the user selects which branch he wants to download, and then the fragment invokes the download cycle.
Ashok, fragments are more of a UI components, and your retrofit is a more smarter way of mapping your RESTful endpoints. I mean, if you properly followed the API naming convention rule, you don't need to map it to put, get, save, update, and all. One
Okay.
endpoint mapping, and then later you can do a save on it, and you can update and all.
Okay, thanks, man.
Satya, I think Avik had a question there in the chat. So.
Okay. What is butter knife's role? Okay, so we've used butter knife for okay. So if you see the UI here, let me try to explain. Avik, do you have Android experience? I mean, do you understand Android's UI and code? Okay, cool. So he answered, yeah, a little bit. So if you see Android UI, these are called text views, where you have the center name and the values for center like mobile, dollar, Sprite, Karnataka one. These are called text views, and every time you need to display some information here, you need a reference to this text view in your code, and then you set a value to that reference. So you would say, typically in Android, you would say find view by ID, and you would give the ID of this text view. So it would be like find view by ID, get the text view for center name value 3, and then you add the value Karnataka 1 into it. Now this becomes very cumbersome because this screen is fine, but if you look at this screen, this has a lot of text views, and find view by IDs and set value becomes very cumbersome. So what butter knife does is, let me show you a class here. If you could see syntax called inject view here. So what this does is, let me just separate that out for you. So we have a screen which is represented by a layout file called fragment offline client. Now when we load this fragment offline client, we call butterknife.inject on this. Now what butterknife would do is, it would look at all the properties which have inject view annotation, and inject view annotation takes ID of the text view. So it would go to this layout file, fetch the text view which has this ID and maps it to this property. So now when you use this property in your code, you don't need to do the find view by ID, and all the boilerplate code is gone. This text view would be injected into this fragment. So this makes the code look fairly simple, because when the boilerplate is gone, and you don't have to do the mapping of field to a text view or a view element in your code. So that helps you minimize your maintenance as well, and it makes for good reading. So that's primarily the purpose of butter knife. It's a very simple. Okay, you got it. So it's a very simple and effective view injection mechanism. There are more complicated ones like Dagger and Juice, RoboJuice, but we went with butter knife because we only wanted the view injection part. Applications like libraries like Dagger gives you more injection capabilities apart from view. So you would get views, you could inject services, activities, and a lot of other things as well. Yeah, but they get fairly complicated pretty soon. So we limited it to butter knife.
Satya, that means like
that was a nice question. Thanks.
One-way binding. So if I have a text box and all, I'm like, no, I can't really use a butter knife.
Text box, you could use it. So even for example, if you want to look at this data, okay, this one. Now this has a text box here. We call it edit text in Android. Now if you want to extract data that was entered by user, you have to do a find view by ID and get a reference to this particular text, edit text, and then get the value of that. Now it's the same thing here. Now you would map that edit text here to something like a edit text, right? And butter knife will take care of injecting the right view into that object, into that property, right? So if you define it as edit text, it would cast it to edit text and assign it to this reference, and then you can extract the value out of that.
Okay.
Similarly, if you see here, we've even mapped a list view. So any view that is there, you can map it using butter knife.
Yeah, that means it is just a one-way, right? I mean, in the sense, I'm like, no, the modified value I'll not be able to read in the same way. It's just like injecting into the view. Again, my reading will be like again by ID, right?
No, even reading goes through the same object. So
okay.
You would say this. So you have a reference to that view element. Now you could do both. You could write to it. You can read.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Butter knife gives you a reference to that view element.
Okay. Yeah, got.
Yeah, gives you both options: writing, reading, everything.
Okay.
Okay. Other thing, probably since you're interested in Android libraries, you could we've gone with Gradle builds, which is the default default mechanism for build on Android right now. So you could see some of the libraries that we've used. So we've used something called Crashlytics, which helps us with crash reporting, and it gives a nice nifty web tool as well to look at all the issues that we've had on production as well. It would give you stack traces, so you can easily find out what happened on the user's device. And you could see some other libraries that I use. I'm sure Ishan has used Picasso. Picasso is something for image download and cache library. It's a pretty popular library from Square. And he's also used flip tables for creating table view on Android client. Yeah, any other questions? Okay, so our discussion right now, I'm adding a wiki page for that as well. So most of this, most of the decisions and the motivations for those decisions would be available on the design details section. If you have any feedback on that, please share that, and we can make that document as useful as possible there. If you want to play around with the code, there's the wiki details all the different steps you need to set up the code on your system and how to build it and stuff like that. Again, try it out, and if you have any queries or suggestions, let us know. Right now, Ishan, I think, is adding those pages, and I'm editing them as well. So we could add it right away.
Satya, where do I get a list of items which are already added into the Android application?
List of items? What items?
Yeah, what are the functionalities which are already available or developed?
Okay. Nayan, do you have an idea? Because I don't have a feature.
Yeah, Ashok, I mean, all those items are tagged in Jira, so you can just search with the tag Android client. So you should be able to figure it out. I mean, like, no, what all the features are already in and tested and in development or yet to be developed.
Is there any place where I can just see the combined list?
Yeah, I can send you the search URL on Jira, so you can see it.
Okay, because I just wanted to compile that. We wanted to know what are the features are already developed, and
yeah, because all the features are tagged with Android client. So in Jira, if you log in and just
there is only
Android client, right, you should be able to get the entire list.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, I'm always available if you have any questions. So you can shoot me an email or yeah, I think that's, or ping me on Skype if you like. We can get into details of if you have any particular query or such. And if there are no other questions, that's pretty much it from my side.
Okay, thanks a lot, Satya. And then I think we've come to the end of the hour, so I'll just do a quick check, see if there's any other questions or topics people on the call would like to cover. And then if not, we'll wrap up for the meeting.
Avik asked a question whether there is a download link for the current APK.
Okay. Right now, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just back in the. I think it's just back in the Android client project. You can find it there, Satya. Let me see the.
Yeah, you could download from there, but what I would recommend is checking out the code and building a new one, because some of these APKs tend to get stale, because if you see, last one was on September 9th, but we may have had some code check-ins after that, and what I would recommend is check out the code and build a new APK all by yourself right now. Once we have the official release, then you would be able to download it from a Play Store a release store as such.
And then is that still the case, Satya, with what Michael Vorberger set up, where he's got the continuous build server running for to get the latest APK? I'm not sure if you've taken a look at that. So.
No, I have not had a look. Yeah, if that is there, then that should be the place where we can pick it from. Yeah.
Okay, well, I posted a link there to the chat. So Michael, set that up just in the past couple weeks, Satya. So.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. We'll send out the link to the notes and the screencast after the meeting. And thank you to Satya for presenting, and Binny as well. And thanks to Nayan for stepping in as host, and sorry for the delay at the start. So everybody have a good evening or afternoon. So. Or morning.
Yeah.
Okay, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.